Hi. Before delving into the episode, I'd like to first let you know about the Books Between Sessions Instagram page. If you would like to see extra content, such as videos, Instagram Lives, and IGTV videos, follow the podcast Instagram Books Between Sessions. Each month, I go live and post videos discussing my monthly reading wrap-up and books that coincide with monthly observances. Some past videos have been family caregiver books, transgender awareness books, domestic violence awareness books, and Indigenous Peoples Day awareness books, to name a few. Tomorrow, I will be having a live video discussing my November reading wrap-up, so be sure to follow the Instagram page Books Between Sessions so that you do not miss out. This show talks about books that feature mental health and mental illness topics. There are many books that include this topic, and my hope is that more and more people know about them because they help to decrease the stigma and help people not feel so alone in their struggle. I am your host, Robin Tamanaha, licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I will be talking about books that are self-help and in the form of a workbook. Most of these contain information and education, and then prompts at the end of each chapter or section to explore your own experience. The books I will be describing are for perfectionism, grief and loss, attachment and relationships, gender identity, and teen depression. If you are in the States, all of these books can be purchased anywhere that you purchase books. So I have 5 books I'm going to describe on this episode, with the first being The Perfectionism Workbook by Taylor Newendorp. The author of this book is a licensed professional counselor that specializes in the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. This book is the perfect blend of information and education and prompts and activities to help uncover and resolve the root of your perfectionism. The information and education is clear and concise and assists the reader in understanding not only how perfectionistic tendencies manifest in life, but also exploring how the beliefs came about. The prompts and activities are in the form of questionnaires, reflections, and coping skills that explore past ways of responding and new ways of responding to perfectionism. Some of the topics in the book are defining perfectionism, approval and pleasing others, procrastination, fear of judgment, criticism, and being enough. The stance of this book is a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness cognitive behavioral therapy, and exposure and response prevention, to name a few. I like the eclectic nature of the book because that is also in line with my therapy approach. Oftentimes it can be helpful to incorporate different types of therapies for a specific challenge. The straightforward presentation of the information and prompts in the book also makes the concepts easily understandable and applicable to daily life. The next book is Your Own Path Through Grief, a workbook for your journey to recovery by Jill Johnson Young. The author of this book is a licensed social worker who spent decades working as a hospice social worker. She is also a certified grief recovery specialist. This workbook is structured so that when it's completed, it kind of looks like a journal of the person's experience with the loss. Each section is broken down into different topics that the user will reflect upon and answer, starting with the person who died, and then leads up to recovery and completion of the loss. Self-care strategies, health, and daily life reminders are also weaved throughout the book because sometimes these things are forgotten, or in the case of health, it's been a long time since they've been attended to. I had Jill Johnson Young on this podcast, so if you would like to listen to our conversation, her knowledge about grief and grief during the pandemic, scroll to find the episode called Your Own Path Through Grief with Jill Johnson Young. The next book is the Attachment Theory Workbook, Powerful Tools to Promote Understanding, Increase Stability, and Build Lasting Relationships by Chen. The author of this book is a licensed marriage and family therapist in private practice who works with individuals and couples within the realm of relationships. This book is from the attachment theory stance, which is that each individual has an attachment style that can be identified when reflecting upon their experience in different significant relationships. And the individual's behaviors in significant relationships, such as with partners, siblings, and friends, can coincide with their attachment style. This book does a great job of walking the reader through the process of learning about attachment and the different attachment styles, discovering their attachment style, exploring how to build secure and healthy relationships, and activities to facilitate healing. I like how at the end of each chapter, the reader is given non-judgmental information about how their attachment style might show up and manifest through specific behaviors and responses in relationships and when under stress, specific helpful strategies for the attachment style type, and how to go about responding to someone depending on their attachment style. This is highly helpful when it comes to romantic relationships and partnerships. For this reason, attachment work is one type of therapy stance in couples therapy. All in all, attachment is applicable to everyone. So anyone can read this book and discover more about themselves and how attachment manifests in all different relationships in their life. The next book is You and Your Gender Identity, A Guide to Discovery by Dara Hoffman Fox. The author of this book is a licensed professional counselor who works with gender questioning, transgender, and non-binary clients at their private practice. This book is formatted and structured so that the reader has really good takeaways and information about gender and gender identity preparation, while also having prompts and activities to reflect, explore, and gain clarity about their own experience with gender. Some topics in the book include getting to know your gender identity, using resources, connection, and self-care to get through the highs and lows of your journey, messages about gender and gender expression you might have experienced as a child, what to do with feelings of fear and uncertainty, and how to explore your gender identity. I had Dara on this podcast, so if you would like to listen to our conversation, their story about their own journey with gender, their knowledge about working with clients, and some things to consider when connecting with others during the pandemic, scroll to find the episode called You and Your Gender Identity with Dara Hoffman Fox. The next book is Beyond the Blues, a workbook to help teens overcome depression by Lisa M. Schaub. The author of this book is a licensed clinical social worker. This book is structured so that it's very concise and straight to the point in helping the teen reader learn about depression, how to cope with sadness and other difficult emotions, what to do with distressing thoughts, coping skills and strategies to incorporate into daily life, ways to deal with conflict, what healthy self-esteem looks like, how to communicate, and what professional counseling looks like if the reader is interested in that. This book is heavy on the workbook aspect. So this would be for a reader who really wants more than just learning about information. This would be for a reader who is very active in discovering themselves and their own experience with depression. So thanks for listening. Hopefully this was informative or helpful. If you would like to stay up to date, please subscribe to this podcast and follow the podcast Instagram profile, Books Between Sessions. As stated earlier, I post videos and lives, so be sure to follow the Instagram so you can watch them. And if you have any book suggestions, books you would like discussed on this podcast, or if you're an author who has written a book that includes mental health or mental illness topics and would like to be a guest, please send us a message on the contact page of the podcast website, booksbetweensessions.com. Also, this podcast is not psychotherapy or counseling. If you need to speak with a professional, you should find one local to you and contact them directly. If this is an emergency, please call your local emergency number or go to your nearest emergency department. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.